Hello again. Welcome back. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. So this would be the last illustrative problem for this particular lesson, the application of parallelogram law in solving for the resultant of system of forces. So we'll solve number 5 in your modules. Okay, so number 5. Determine the magnitude of the resultant of the forces F1, F2, and F3 if its direction measured counterclockwise from the positive x-axis. So in this case, previously, we have solved the resultant of two forces. Ngayon, we have three forces. How do you solve for the resultant of three or more forces? No? Using the parallelogram law. Okay, so we have these forces F1, F2, and F3. This is F3. Okay. So let's solve. What we're going to do is to apply the parallelogram law twice. So maybe we can solve for the resultant of F1 and F2 first, and the resultant later on solve for the resultant of the three forces. So yung resultant niya at saka yung F3. Ayan. So yung resultant ng F1, kukunin natin yung resultant ng F1 and F2 muna, or you may also start with F3 and F2, or F1 and F3, okay lang naman yun. But ang procedure na ang gagawin natin is kunin natin yung resultant ng F1 and F2, and then yung resultant nilang dalawa i-resolve ay kukunin ulit natin yung resultant ng F3 at saka yung resultant ng F1 and F2. So first we need to solve for the resultant of F1 and F2. So ito yung i-isolate muna natin yung F1 and F2, itanggalin muna natin yung F3. So ito na yan. Okay, so kunin natin yung resultant ng F1 and F2 using parallelogram method. Okay, so again, how do you apply the parallelogram method? So you draw parallel lines. So parallel lines. So from the head of the 800 Newton force, mag-drawing tayo ng parallel line relative to the 600 Newton force. Okay. Drawing tayo ng parallel line. And then, from the head of 600 Newton force, drawing tayo ng parallel line relative to the 800 Newton force. Okay. And yung diagonal would be the resultant of the two forces. Okay. So drawing natin yung diagonal. Okay. So this would be, let's say this is R1. Okay, R1. That's the resultant of F1 and F2. Then later on, after we solve for R1, we solve the resultant of F3 and R1, and that would be the resultant of the three forces. Okay? So, solve natin. So, kailangan nating identify ng angles. So, kailangan nating malaman yung angle dito. Okay, so applying the parallelogram law, if this is 800 newtons, this side is also equal to 800 newtons. If this is 600 newtons, then this side is also equal to 600 newtons. So forces din yung mga yan. Okay, and then solve for this angle. How do you solve for this angle? Let's see, angle beta. angle beta. So again, the total interior angles for a parallelogram is 360. So we have 360 degrees is equal to itong angle na to. Ano itong angle na yan? This angle is, so this is 45, then definitely this is also 45 degrees. Okay, so this is 60 plus 45, that is 105 degrees. Then this is also equal to 105 degrees. So we have twice of 105 degrees plus twice of beta. So beta is equal to 75 degrees. Okay, so this will be the figure ito makita dun sa video. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so we can isolate either of the two triangles formed here. Since parallelogram yan, pag dinivide natin yan using the diagonal, the triangles formed are the same or similar. So we can analyze either of the two triangles na lang yung analyze natin. So we can solve for the R1, the value of the resultant, using cosine law. So R1 is equal to the square root of since cosine law, since we given ay two sides and included angle. So we have 800 squared plus 600 squared minus 2 times 800, 600. Cosine of the included angle, that is 75 degrees. So the resultant of F1 and F2 is equal to, resultant ng F1 and F2 is equal to 866.910 newtons. Ayan. So anong direction ng R1? It's important that we know the direction of R1. Okay, so pwedeng from the positive x-axis or any axis ang reference natin. So any reference axis, para pag sinolve natin yung result ng R1 and F3, alam natin yung kanyang direction. Then we can solve for the direction of R1, direction ng R1 from the positive x-axis. Ito na lang yung kunin natin na direction niya. So what is this direction? Let's say this is alpha na lang. Alpha ba ang theta na lang. I think the module, iba yata yung procedure sa module, but this would be a different solution, pero the same din naman yung sagot dito. So we can solve for the direction of R1 from the positive x-axis. So how do you solve for the direction of R1 from the positive x-axis? So paano ba? Paano yan isosolve? Okay, so how do you solve for the angle theta? So given kanina, this is angle 60 degrees. We know that this is 60 degrees. 60 yan na from itong F2 from the positive y-axis yan. Okay, so that is 60 degrees. So solve for angle theta. How do you solve for angle theta? So angle theta is equal to, so angle theta is equal to, that is itong angle na to, 90 plus 60 minus this angle. So 90, hindi na nagsusulat yung ink. So we have 90, itong angle na to, 90 yan, plus 60, ayan, minus yung angle nito. So maybe we can solve for that angle. This angle is, let's say, angle alpha minus angle alpha. Okay, so 90 plus ito 60 minus alpha is this angle theta. So what is alpha? We can solve for alpha using cosine or sine law. I think it's more convenient to use sine law since we have solved for R1 already. So R1 is 866.910 newtons divided by the sine of the opposite angle, which is 75 degrees, should be equal to 600 divided by sine of the opposite angle, which is alpha. So alpha is equal to, okay, alpha is equal to 41 point, that is 41.954 degrees. So that theta is equal to 90 degrees plus 60 degrees minus 41.954 degrees. The angle theta, the direction of R1 from the positive x-axis, equal to, so theta is equal to 108.046 degrees. So that is the direction of R1 from the positive x-axis. Ayan. So since solve na natin yung R1, so again, R1 represents already F1 and F2. Ibig sabihin, yung effect ng F1 and F2 sa ring, may ring dyan, so look at your modules, is the same as the effect of R1. Yan. Parehas lang yung effect niya dun sa ring. Yung effect ng F1 and F2 sa ring ay equal sa effect ng R1 dun sa ring. Okay? So yan na yon. So kinonvert natin yung F1 and F2 sa iisang force lang. Okay, and then after that, i-resolve naman natin yung R1, i-resolve to rin. Kunin natin yung resultant ng R1 and F3. So let's try to redraw. I-erase ko na to. So i-redraw na lang natin yung figure. So alisin na natin yung F1 and F2, palitan natin ng R1, and then solve for the resultant. Okay? Okay? So after solving for the resultant of F1 and F2, we can now solve for the resultant of R1. So this is R1 and F3. Okay. So using parallelogram method. Okay, again, you draw parallel lines relative to each force. I hope parallel siya sa mukhang parallel naman. Okay. Okay. Hindi siya parallel. Race. Yeah, mukhang parallel na siya. Okay. So draw the diagonal. Diagonal, that would be the resultant of the two forces. So that would be the resultant. So again, if this is 450, this is also 450. Okay, yung direction niya, ba't red na yun? Sorry, it should be blue. So this is 450. This is 866, then this is also 866.910. Okay. Ayan. Again, you can choose any of the two triangles to analyze or solve for the resultant. So the resultant are, let's say R na. again, kailangan para ma-apply natin yung cosine law, we need to solve for the angle between the two given sides. Ito, this angle, let's say angle beta. Then we can also solve for this particular angle, let's say angle alpha. Angle alpha is equal to, we know that itong angle na to from the positive x-axis hanggang sa may negative y-axis, that's 270 degrees, you know? So angle alpha is simply equal to 270 degrees minus 108.046 minus 75 degrees. So angle alpha is equal to 93. That is 9. Ay. Ba na post yun? That is 93.046 degrees. Okay, that's angle beta. Okay, if we have solved for angle beta, then we can now apply the cosine law to solve for the resultant. So the resultant is equal to, we have 866.910 squared plus, so you can choose any of the two triangles. Pwede naman. Plus we have 450 minus twice of 866.91 times 450 times cosine of 93 046. Okay, ganyan na. So the resultant is equal to, the resultant is 997.771 Newton. So that is the resultant. This is the resultant of the three forces. Yan na yung resultant ng tatlong forces. Okay? I'm sorry, I think this should be 743. Yep. So 997.743 using these figures kasi I think dun sa module magkaiba tayo ng rounded values. So maybe we can, to be consistent, we can follow na lang yung nandito sa whiteboard. Okay? So next is to solve for, we're also required to solve for the direction of the resultant from the positive x axis measured counterclockwise from the positive x axis. So saan ba yung angle na yan? So we can use this figure. Eto. Okay. Yan yung direction na resultant from the positive x axis. Let's say angle theta. Okay, so how do you solve for that particular direction or angle from the positive x axis? Ano natin solve yan? So let's try to examine the figure. So by inspection, we know that theta is equal to, we have 108.046 degrees, itong angle na to, plus this angle. If we can solve for this angle, then masolve natin yung angle theta. Let me erase yung arrow muna dito. So this is R. Let's say this is angle. Ano pa hindi ko pa nagagamit na Greek letter dito. Angle beta, alpha, theta, phi na lang. Phi. So theta is equal to 108.046 plus the angle phi. So how do you solve for the angle phi? You can solve for angle phi by sine law. Okay, sine law. Okay. So paano solve yung sine law dito? Paano natin i-apply yung sine law? So alam naman natin yung value ng resultant, that is 997.743 divided by the sine of the opposite angle. Anong opposite angle ng resultant? That's the angle beta. Beta is equal to 93.046 degrees. Equal yan sa 450 over the sine of the opposite angle, which is phi. So phi is equal to, that's equal to 26.768 degrees. So that's angle phi. So that the direction of R measured counterclockwise from the positive x-axis is equal to, so theta is equal to 108.046 plus 26.768 degrees. So angle theta is equal to 134.814 degrees. So that's the angle theta. So this is the direction of R from the measured counterclockwise from the positive x axis. Okay, so that is problem number 5. Next topic would be, ano yung next topic natin? I think the opposite of finding the resultant, that is finding the components of forces relative to specified axis. So that would be our next topic, still using the parallelogram law. Okay, so we will discuss that on a separate video. So thank you. See you sa next video.